In recent weeks, processes have begun to occur in the technology sector that at first glance look like ordinary personnel reshuffles, but upon closer analysis, form a much more complex and even concerning picture. We are talking about Apple, which, according to several sources at once, including insiders who regularly cooperate with Bloomberg and Reuters, may be preparing for the most large-scale leadership change in recent decades. The information has not yet been officially confirmed, but the coincidence of signals is too obvious to ignore. According to these reports, the current head of the company, Tim Cook, may in the foreseeable future leave his position, concluding an era during which Apple became one of the most expensive and influential companies in the world. And in his place, as sources claim, a figure is being considered who just a few years ago was outside the field of view of the general audience, but within the company itself has long been considered key. This is John Ternus, an engineer by education and one of the fastest rising top managers at Apple, responsible for the development of hardware products, including iPhone, Mac, and new categories of devices. However, if one stops only at this level, it is possible to miss a much more important and perhaps even shocking aspect of what is happening. More and more analysts, including former employees of major technology corporations and experts from Silicon Valley, are beginning to say that such a leadership change may be only the external layer of a much deeper transformation. According to them, Apple, like a number of other technology giants, is already actively implementing artificial intelligence systems into company management processes. And we are talking not just about assistance in analytics or automation of individual tasks. According to some estimates, up to 40 to 50% of strategic decisions within large corporations are already formed with the participation of algorithms that analyze markets, user behavior, logistics, and even personnel reshuffles. Against this background, a logical but extremely uncomfortable question arises. What if the real leadership change at Apple has already happened, but not at the level of people? What if figures like John Ternus are only public representatives of a system in which key decisions are increasingly made not by a human, but by an algorithm? Such assumptions still remain in the realm of semi-official discussions, but they are increasingly being raised in closed reports of investment funds and analytical companies. Moreover, some investors, according to sources, are not only aware of such a transformation, but also perceive it as a positive signal, believing that algorithmic management is capable of minimizing human errors and accelerating decision-making. But this strategy also has a serious problem which, according to experts, may become critical specifically for Apple. Unlike companies such as Google or Microsoft, Apple still does not have a full-fledged dominant proprietary AI platform comparable in capabilities to their solutions. Yes, the company actively uses machine learning and develops the voice assistant Siri, but strategically, it still largely depends on external solutions and partnerships. And this, according to analysts, creates a fundamental risk. If company management increasingly moves into the domain of algorithms, then the absence of its own powerful AI becomes a vulnerability. And here the figure of John Ternus begins to look completely different. According to insiders, his possible appointment may be connected not only with hardware expertise, but also with a new task that is becoming a priority for Apple: the creation of its own, fully autonomous artificial intelligence capable not only of competing with the solutions of other companies, but also of integrating at the level of managing the entire ecosystem. We are talking about a potential transformation of Siri from an ordinary voice assistant into a full-fledged intelligent system that will be able to make decisions, analyze the market, and essentially participate in company management. Moreover, in recent months, rumors have begun circulating in the industry about an internal project at Apple that in some leaks appears under the tentative name iSiri Robot. According to these reports, the company is considering the possibility of creating not only a software AI, but also a physical carrier, a device, or even a humanoid robot that will become the interface for interaction with this intelligence. For now, this sounds like science fiction, but if we recall how quickly technologies in robotics and generative AI are developing, it becomes clear that such a scenario no longer looks impossible. It is interesting that in parallel, Similar trends are being observed in other corporations. Executives of large companies are increasingly openly saying that artificial intelligence is already taking on a significant part of management functions. And although publicly, no one declares a full transfer of control to algorithms, in closed circles, a scenario is being discussed in which in the coming years, the share of AI participation in management may reach 80 to 100%. This does not mean the disappearance of humans, but their role is gradually shifting from decision-making to control and interpretation of system outputs. Thus, the possible departure of Tim Cook is not just a personnel event, but a potential symbol of the transition to a new era where the classical concept of a CEO begins to blur. And if earlier a company's strategy was formed in the offices of top managers, now it is increasingly born in data centers, where algorithms analyze billions of parameters in real time. In this context, John Ternus may become not so much the new leader of Apple as a link between human management and a system that is gradually taking control. And if these processes are indeed occurring as analysts suggest, then we are on the threshold of a fundamental shift that will change not only Apple, but the entire technology industry. Because at the moment when the management of the largest corporations comes under the control of artificial intelligence, the very logic of business, competition, and development will change. And the question is no longer whether this will happen, but who will be the first to fully adopt this model and be able to use it to their advantage. According to analysts, including former Apple employees and experts from Bloomberg, the company has for several years been testing AI systems that not only help make decisions, but directly propose ready-made strategies for product and market development. They analyze billions of user data points, supply chains, competitor actions, and audience emotional reactions, forming scenarios that are then approved by top management. In this context, the role of Tim Cook is gradually changing. From an architect of strategy, he turns into a person who confirms or adjusts decisions already formed by the algorithm. That is why the arrival of John Ternus may become not the beginning of a new era, but its formalization. According to insiders, Ternus interacts excellently with engineering and analytical teams and is capable of becoming an ideal conduit for the deep integration of AI into management. His task is not to compete with algorithms, but to accelerate their integration at all levels, from device development to strategic investments. The main challenge remains the same. Apple still does not have its own powerful AI comparable to the developments of Google and Microsoft. Previously, this looked like lagging behind in one direction. Now it looks like a systemic risk of losing control over key processes. That is why inside the company, the development of Siri is being sharply accelerated, transforming it from an assistant into a full-fledged intellectual center of the ecosystem. The iSiri robot project is also being actively discussed, an attempt to create a physical embodiment of AI that will be able to interact with the user at a new level. In case of success, Apple will receive not just a device, but a material interface of intelligence capable of making decisions, learning, and adapting in real time. The main open question is where the boundary lies between a tool and a manager. When a system begins to propose and implement decisions faster than a human, its role inevitably goes beyond auxiliary. In this case, a CEO change will become only an external signal of a much deeper transformation in which the real center of control shifts from humans to algorithms, data, and decisions made in fractions of a second.